Hi, this is Larry London. Welcome once again to Border Crossings. Around the world we go in 100 different countries. Over 330 million people are tuning in to VOA programming every week. And today we are thrilled to bring back a longtime friend. I think he probably has been on the show more than any other guest we've had, because it's always a pleasure to welcome back John Ondrasik, who's here with us from Five for Fighting. It's great to have you, John. How you been?
Larry, I'm honored. I had no idea. It's great to see you again.
It's great to see you. And the last time we spoke, you were talking about a song you had recorded in Kiev, in Ukraine. And it seems like these days you are writing and recording songs that have a humanitarian element to them without getting political, but yet at the same time, the songs are still inspired by current affairs.
Yeah, I take no joy in writing these songs. As our first chat, I wrote Blood on My Hands about our Afghan withdrawal, and we spoke about that. And after that experience, I'm like, well, I hope I never have to write another one. And then, of course, when Putin invaded Ukraine, I did write Can One Man Save the World, kind of about the fortitude of the Ukrainian people. And, as mentioned, traveled to Kyiv and recorded with an orchestra in a blown up airport. And it was a life-changing experience doing that. And after that, I'm like, okay, wow, that was incredible, and never have to do that again. and then here comes October 7th, and obviously the horror of October 7th. But then in my mind, kind of the collapse of many of our institutions, morally, our college campuses, our media, members on the Hill, and I wrote, as you know, a song called "Okay," with the chorus being "We're not okay. Something's deeply broken." When thousands of people are celebrating atrocities 24 hours after they happen, and again, I had no expectation of what that song would do. But the last 7 months, 8 months almost now since October 7th has been very surreal for me in my life, with that song and what it's kind of meant to so many.
And for the benefit of those tuning in around the world that have not been affected, which would be a very small percentage of the audience in one way or another, or understand what October 7th means, that's the date that Hamas came into Israel and massacred a bunch of concert goers. And babies were slaughtered, and it was just horrific, horrific. And so there's been a war that's been going on now. I don't know how long it's been going on, but a lot of casualties, civilian casualties, and war is terrible. It's a terrible thing. There's no winner in a war. Everybody loses. And but you went to, have you gone to Hamas? Have you gone, not Hamas, but have you gone to Palestine?
Well, I went to Israel. Certainly, I don't think I'd survive very long if we went to Gaza, unfortunately, in these days. But I had a break in my touring schedule, and the song had become a song that kind of spoke for many Jewish people in the world who feel abandoned, that we're not okay, that something's wrong. And I was actually able to perform at Hostage Square every Saturday night in Tel Aviv. There's a broadcast where tens of thousands of people come. Hostage families speak. It's broadcast around the country, kind of a rallying cry for the hostages. And they asked me to play my song Superman and this new song Okay for the hostage families. And I'll tell you, Larry, it was the closest thing for me to the Concert for New York after 9/11. Playing the Concert for New York to me will be the most significant thing I ever do, meeting with families of those heroes that ran into those buildings. But in Tel Aviv that night, with hostage families literally 10 feet from me, holding the signs of their loved ones, singing that song. That was incredibly humbling as well, meeting with hostage families, meeting with IDF soldiers. And what really kind of wrapped up that experience was the performance was literally 3 hours before Iran attacked Israel. The drones launched. And so I had my son with me. Of course, that was traumatic for my wife and me. But to kind of go there and experience that with them, again, was something that was very powerful, and I think it changed me. And to kind of see the resilience, before I performed, there was an announcement I'd never heard, Larry. The announcement was, in event of missile attack, everybody please take cover and take shelter. And nobody left. Not one person left. I wanted to run to my hotel, hide in the safe room. And then after I performed, my Israeli friends, they said you have to be in your safe room by 11 o'clock. They're closing the airplanes. My Israeli friends wanted to go to dinner. They had a reservation, and they're like, well, we'll be in the hotel. So it's just a different attitude. For people for thousands of years have been kind of under siege. They find a way to enjoy life in the darkest of times. So it was incredibly moving and experience, of course, none of our family will ever forget.
Mm-hmm. So you said it changed you. It was a life-changing experience. How did it change you?
In the days kind of up to that concert, there was a lot of talk about Iran attacking. So a lot of folks kind of knew something was on the horizon. But if you look at the beaches, they were packed. If you looked at the restaurants, they were packed. Certainly people, I think, were nervous. They were on edge, but life was going on. And the day after the attack, the morning after the attack, people were going to work. People were playing volleyball. And that would never happen, of course, in the United States. If we were attacked by an evil group of terrorists and an evil adversary. And so, and when you walk through Jerusalem and you walk through the markets and you see, 19-year-old girls in full uniform with AK-47s, you're like, you don't see that around the world. But it gives you a sense of, I have this song called 100 Years where it's about living in the moment, recognizing the moment, whatever comes at you. So I kind of, that fortitude and outlook on life kind of made me think twice. And since I've come back, I'm not Jewish. You don't have to be Jewish to condemn Hamas. You just have to be sane. But I find myself, on Saturdays, putting my phone down and hanging out with my family and trying to enjoy what I can when we face challenges. So I think it's something we all can learn from and all can, take with us to make our lives a little more fulfilling.
Mm-hmm. And here in the United States, after the 9/11 massacre at the Twin Towers in Pennsylvania and here at the Pentagon,
Yeah.
America united. There became really a unified. Did you feel that in Israel right now? Because it seems like there's some division with the plan on what they're doing there. It seems like some of the people don't want it. Some of the people do want it.
I think like any democracy, it's a healthy thing to have different viewpoints. I think the country has come together on the realization that they cannot live under this terrorist threat. But there are certainly divisions, especially within the hostage families. I think that many feel that the government's not doing enough. Others feel that it's a very hard thing. I think since the incredible rescue of the 4 Israeli hostages, I think that has actually calmed down a little bit. But look, one thing about Israel, I think is different than anywhere else around the world. After October 7th and this war started, so many Jewish young men traveled to Israel to fight this war. They couldn't get enough planes. Everybody was coming to fight this war. So I think, look, Jewish people are always the front line of the sphere. To me, this is not a battle of Hamas versus Israel. It's civilization against those who want to tear it down. But yeah, I think there's a certain unity and purpose. But in all healthy democracies, there's different viewpoints. And Israel has 1 million political parties. I learned a lot about the political structure there. But I think that's a healthy thing. But I think they all understand this cannot continue. They cannot have people who butcher babies, rape women, take hostages, torture hostages across the border from their nation. So hopefully, as you said, this war will end soon. The hostages will be released for the people of Gaza and Palestine. Their only hope is to be freed from Hamas.
And they have over 100 hostages still being held.
And 5 Americans. I just wrote an article in the Wall Street Journal. And, Larry, we're kind of the same generation. And you probably remember in 1979, the Iranian hostage crisis,
Oh, yeah.
where every news broadcast was led by the hostages and their plight. Yellow ribbons were tied around trees and fence posts across the whole country. Our whole kind of country had gathered to support the hostages and their families. I speak to the hostage families. I speak to the American hostage families, and they feel forgotten. That's because they have been. So I think it maybe says something about the times we live in that we actually have 5 American hostages, of course, and over 120 international hostages, Israeli hostages, and nobody knows their names. And the media doesn't seem to have interest in reporting them. The president of the United States rarely mentions them. I was very pleased to see that at the RNC, the Republican National Convention, the first act was to say a prayer for the hostages. I know that meant a lot to the hostage families, and I hope the DNC does the same thing, because these are Americans. They were just at a concert, and they were taken hostage by these evil barbarians, and the fact that we've kind of forgot them makes you really wonder who we are anymore.
We've got John Ondrasik with us from Five for Fighting, and it's a pleasure to have John back again. We're talking about some new music, new projects. He's got several different tours coming up this year. Before the end of the year, we'll talk more with him as we go. What would you like to sing for us first? What song are you going to perform?
Well, we've been talking about this new song, "Okay, We're Not Okay," that really speaks to kind of the collapse of many of our moral institutions. And I wrote it on the piano, but I think it might be fun to do it old school 60s folk, protest rock way. So why don't I play "Okay, We're Not Okay" for you on guitar?
All right, John Ondrasik, "Okay, We're Not Okay," here on Border Crossings.
This is a time for choosing. This is a time to mourn. The moral man is losing. Forbidden laws forlorn. I don't understand. I don't understand how you can look yourself in the mirror. I don't understand. I don't understand. How does that blood fill up your eyes? We are now. We are now. Okay. You hide behind your baby. You hide behind your kin. The Harvarders have rabies. That Holocaust again. I don't understand. I don't understand how you can love yourself in the mirror. I don't understand. I don't understand. How does that love fill up your eyes? We
Border Crossings, that is John Ondrasik, and a brand new song that he's put out, inspired by a tragic series of events that are still continuing to this day. And John is with us, and it's I'm okay, I'm not okay.
Yeah, yeah. We're certainly not okay when we have college campuses raging with anti-Semitic mobs, assaulting Jewish kids, sometimes faculty enabling that, but I also think the tide's turning a little bit. I think we talk about silent majorities. The thing with silent majorities is if you wait too long, they become silent minorities. But I think people are starting to stand up and just stand for basic decency and supporting so many of these kids at these schools who've been under siege.
It's just it's your skills, your talent are amazing in and of themselves, but yet you use them in such a prolific way to help people to shine light on things that may otherwise not be given the attention it deserves or needs. We're living in a very strange time right now. I mean, in not only in our country, but in many countries around the world. This is look what happened in France, look what happened in Australia and in the UK and London. There's lots of changes, lots of things going on, and we've got our own presidential election coming up in November as well here. So, John, I wanted to ask you, when you sang Superman, which was like 2 decades ago, you use a falsetto. Have you always sung with a falsetto? Is that your thing?
It's kind of become my thing. I kind of aspired to be a rock singer like Freddie Mercury and Steve Perry and my favorite singers. But I've always kind of had that falsetto sound. My first song actually that came out before Superman was a song called Easy Tonight that was a song written on guitar, and I didn't sing kind of up in that register. But certainly with Superman in 100 Years, that kind of sound kind of defines what I do. I actually train vocally operatically. Many rock singers actually do that. They train classically. So I kind of sang opera from like 16 to 22. But, I was listening to The Who. I was listening to the Beatles. I was listening to Elton and Billy. And that's really where my heart was as a singer-songwriter. But yeah, no, the nice thing is about that falsetto is it's kind of identifiable. You kind of know who it is. On the other hand, as a singer, it's a tightrope. It's much kind of more delicate to sing up there. And so if I get a little cold or if I'm singing in the morning on a television show and it's 30 degrees in there, and I'm always kind of walking this tightrope with that falsetto, but so far we've been able to hold it together.
I had Barry Gibb on.
Oh, yeah.
And so I asked him about the falsetto. Was that always a part of his plan? Was that always how he sang? He said, no.
Yeah.
It was Robert Stigwood that made him, go that way. So,
for sure. Yeah. If you listen to like early Bee Gees, which I love, they're singing much more kind of in their kind of what we call our chest voice. But then, of course, the Saturday Night,
Fever.
I'm totally having a brain malfunction. But Saturday Night Fever soundtrack, that defined that falsetto sound. And you saw a lot of kind of artists kind of emulating that, which you typically do when you see success like that. But here's one thing about Barry Gibb, and I since you mentioned him, I have to say it. Great vocalist, iconic. What an amazing songwriter. Incredible melodist. The harmonies of him and his brothers just gives me chills to this day. So I think sometimes the Bee Gees, because they kind of wore the outfits and they're kind of, the hair, you forget what amazing songwriters that group of brothers was. And some of the best songs, kind of that genre, which was the golden age of songwriting.
And the harmonies and the being in unison and the vocal treatment of all acts back in the 60s, when you talk about the Everly Brothers were another team of two that, just made it work, the Righteous Brothers, and the list goes on and on. We don't have that today. It's not, the harmonies don't exist like they used to.
Well, we don't have a lot of things today, and it's my job to lament that and be the grumpy old guy and say, it was so much better in my day.
In my day, before cell phones.
Yeah, yeah, but yeah, no, look, obviously things have changed a lot. Certainly technology has come in, and there's there's fewer and fewer kind of family bands, much less kind of bands and people that play their own instrument. Certainly the nice thing about technology is it allows folks who are maybe not, prodigy players to become songwriters and write songs. And I think it's interesting to see that. Of course, with AI coming up, we have that whole revolution. But yeah, I kind of miss, I miss, the Partridge Family, man.
Yes.
I miss all those bands and
Well,
stuff.
you are the modern day Bob Dylan, who was one of the great, I guess, anti-war, anti-violence, crime, drugs, whatever it was about, that inspired his songwriting. And you're taking your songwriting from the headlines from different events that are around the world. Now, I want to go back in time a little bit and talk about Superman. It's
Yeah.
Not Easy, which was Five for Fighting, a big, big song. John wrote it. John is Five for Fighting. And so, were you surprised by the success? Did you know going in when you wrote that and recorded it, it was going to be the hit that it ended up being?
Oh, no way. I was kind of in my late 20s. I've been fighting the music business battle for 15 years. When I wrote Superman, I almost didn't even put it on my record because I was in this mindset of I want to be a rock guy. I want to be rock and roll. And I thought it was a nice song. Maybe I would give it to another artist. But my producer, Greg Wattenberg, kept saying, dude, you got to put that on your song and I'll be ever on your record. And I'll always be ever grateful to him. And, it was not 1970 when Superman came out. It was the
No.
late 90s, early
Yes.
2000, which was boy bands, Lilith Fair, grunge music. There was no piano on the radio. So as I mentioned, I'd had this little song, Easy Tonight, that kind of put me on the map a little bit. But when the record company said, okay, you sold no records, but we'll give you one more song, I picked Superman just because I'd seen people react to it. I'd seen when I performed it that people seemed to be moved by that. I also thought it kind of expressed kind of my experience, of the battle of the music business. It's not easy to be me. And when it came out, nobody wanted to play it. It was different. It was, it was slow. The radio programmer said, "Oh, the lyrics are too deep." But we got this weird sign that one day I got a call, and the record company said that your song Superman's #1 in the Philippines. I'm like, the Philippines? How was that? That came out of left field. But we got a sense that there's something there. And then over time, the song started to what they call it in your business, of course, research, test. And it took a long time because it was different. But then the song really started becoming a very kind of popular song. And then, of course, after 9/11, I didn't realize what Superman had became for our country till I got back. I was in England for a week. Couldn't get home, of course. But when I got back, I'd seen many of the CNNs of the world using Superman to recognize our heroes. Then it took a completely new meaning, which as a young songwriter, I still can't put into words. Playing the concert for New York, I still can't describe that properly. But it again, I think it also changed me in that I saw at that kind of young point in my career how music can matter in ways that is not hits, sales of tickets, fame and fortune, and maybe kind of seeing what Superman did for so many, maybe flipped a switch, and maybe that's kind of realized in some of these new songs that have not one spin on the radio, but they are making a difference globally. So I think Superman, that lesson for me definitely sunk in. And of course, started my relationship with our troops, our military families, and performing for them, which has been the true honor of my career.
Well, I know that, you mentioned the Philippines. We're on in the Philippines. We have affiliates there. So they are hearing you there. They're hearing you all around the world. Ballads will always hold a special place in everyone's heart. There's been some tremendous ballads over the years. And Superman is among that collection that I'm referring to. And I know in Asia, because I lived there 7 years, that they tend to like the ballads. They don't get rap as much, but they really like the ballads. So if you've performed in the Philippines, I'm sure they were crazy to have you there because it's a very, very music-oriented culture.
Yeah, unfortunately, I haven't been able to get there yet, but I did go on a cruise once, and basically 80% of the crews were Filipino. And so there were, probably 1,000 Filipinos on the cruise. And and I didn't realize till then how important the song was to the Filipino people. So I actually put together a little concert for them on the deck, and we played a few songs, and we got permission from the captain to have everybody kind of come in, and it was a very special, sweet moment to see a culture that I have, very little interaction with, where the song was so important to them. I was so humbled, and it was so wonderful. And that again, that was one of the kind of sweet highlights of my career.
It must, be rewarding to know that you have touched so many lives in so many places. It's probably something that's overwhelming to think about. When you go on tour and you perform in a country where they don't speak English, but they know the lyrics to your songs, that's got to be gratifying and rewarding as well.
Yeah, it's humbling. It's kind of interesting because I'm not a huge artist, right? I don't play arenas. I don't have tens of thousands of tickets. I'm not a household name. If people know Five for Fighting, it's very likely they don't know it's this guy, John. But to see how the songs themselves have found their place around the world, and Superman, 100 Years, Can One Man Save the World? Of course, this new song, Okay. As a songwriter, that is humbling. And also the fact that they've stood the test of time, that there are people coming to my shows who were not born when I wrote Superman singing the lyrics to me. I think any singer-songwriter, if you ask them, what would be your biggest wish for your career, is that you have songs that people sing 20, 30, 40 years after you write them. And to have a couple of those, again, it makes me very, very humbled, and I feel so blessed.
John Ondrasik is our guest. What are you going to sing for us next?
Well, why don't we do one of these that have kind of found their way? Let's do 100 Years.
Classic from Five for Fighting, 100 Years, here on Border Crossings.
I'm 15 for a moment, caught in between 10 and 20, and I'm just dreaming, counting the way to where you are. I'm 22 for a moment, and she feels better than ever. We're on fire, making our way back from Mars. And 15, there's still time for you, time to buy, time to lose. 15 is never a wish better than this, when you only got 100 years to live. I'm 33 for a moment, I'm still the man, but you see I'm the kid on the way, a family on my mind. I'm 45 for a moment, the sea is high and we're heading into a crisis now, counting the years of our lives. And 15, there's still time for you, time to buy, time to lose yourself within a morning star. In 15, I'm alright with you. 15 is never a wish better than this, never a wish better than this, when you only got 100 years to live. Da 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 da, doo 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 doo.
Border Crossings and 100 Years, John Ondrasik and Five for Fighting. And I guess you are going out on 2 different tours this summer?
Yeah, it's really cool. I've basically fallen into this pattern where in the spring and the fall, we do very intimate string quartet shows in small theaters. It's a very storytelling show. We can pull out arrangements with some incredible composers. But then in the summer, we put the boys in the bus and we go out and we do the big rock shows and you know, we make noise and we play electric guitar and we do really kind of fun, kind of more kind of, you know, summer shows, right? Where it's not quite as maybe poignant, but we have a lot of fun. So we had our first show the other night in Texas. We're off to Minneapolis next week. We'll be out through all of August across the Midwest and the Northeast with the rock band. And then in September, we'll put the string quartet back on the road, these amazing Broadway players who just blow my mind every night. And we'll be kind of in the Northeast. But yeah, it's the best. You know, these not only are these incredible musicians, world-class musicians, they are some of my best friends. And it's like taking your family on the road. And every time you see them, it's a reunion. So you can tell I'm smiling because I'm excited to get out there again.
I can tell, I can feel it, I can hear it. And yeah, I know people around the world are wondering, are you coming to their part of the world? Are you doing any international touring? Is that part of your plan?
Well, you know, I've been asked a lot in the last kind of few months. We are trying to get to the Philippines. That's on my big bucket list. I do think at some point I'll probably go back to Israel and do some more performances, collaborations over there. We're trying to put together some collaborations with Ukrainian artists, Israeli artists, Iranian dissidents, Palestinian dissidents to really kind of tie the music community to these causes and to fight for those who are kind of under siege and suffering. So there's a lot to do. I'll be going to some college campuses in the fall as well, performing for many of the Jewish students and the students who've been kind of under threat. I think it's important to stand up to that. I did a show at MIT with Israeli stars Madis Yahu and Idan Reichel. So I think those are important for the arts to stand up for, in my mind, what is right. So it's going to be busy. There's a show for the frat boys who saved the American flag. I don't know if you saw that. No. So we're actually doing a show for the frat boys. Wow. And so it's going to be a wild summer. And the last thing I'll mention is, I know your friend and mine, Gary Sinise, our Bob Hope, he moved his foundation to Nashville. So we'll be doing a show in November to kind of open up the Nashville office and sing for our troops and our military families, because at the end of the day, that is our first priority.
So he's, Gary does the emceeing for the big Veteran Day, but we've got John Ondrasik with us here on Border Crossings. Now, we might be able to put you in touch with somebody who's well connected in the Philippines. Maybe you do a collaboration with a Philippine artist. That's an easy way to ingratiate yourself to an audience, to a community, is by singing a song along with one of their favorites or their loved artists. So
I love that idea. I love it. Yeah, please do. Maybe we could do a cover of Superman, a duet of Superman.
Would that be great? Oh my God. See, look, this is where the great ideas are born, just off the cuff.
And you'll produce it, Larry.
Well, I think no. I produced one song in my career, and that was in Hong Kong for a guy named Alan Tam, Chinese singer, and he sang a song in English. He wanted somebody whose native language was English to help him make sure that he was pronouncing words correctly and stuff. So I helped a little bit in that regard. And John Ondrasik has got so much going on and new music. And I was looking and it said that you have been featured in 300 films. Your music has been on TV shows and films and just about everywhere. How does that grab you when you're watching a TV commercial and all of a sudden your song comes on?
I still pinch myself. It just seems surreal and strange. And you'd think by now, at this point in my career, I'd be maybe used to it a little bit. But the great thing and fun thing about writing for film is that you start with a little bit of homework, right? You have a script, you have a theme, you have a tone. It's not like writing a song where maybe you start with a blank slate. So it's kind of a different craft of songwriting, but when you have the right imagery on the screen with the right music, nothing can be more powerful. It's amazing, and it's so fun to do. And yes, I've been very fortunate to have a lot of my songs in different films and stuff. But yeah, that's something I still enjoy doing, and I hope to do a lot more of that.
Now, let me ask you this, because I can tell the passion you have for songwriting. So I'm going to ask you, if a record company executive came up to you and said, John, you can only songwrite or you can sing, one or the other, what would you pick?
That's a very interesting question, because there's something about singing to an audience and have them sing a song with you that is sublime. But if I could only pick one, I would pick the songwriting, because if you write a good song, thousands, maybe millions of people will sing that song. So I think as someone who likes to hope their music has an impact, I think it would definitely be songwriting. And maybe I could get I could get a better singer to sing my song. There's a lot of better singers than me. So that would probably be my choice.
All right, John Ondrasik is our guest. He's going to do another song for us. We've got time for one more. What are you going to do?
I think I'll leave this and dedicate this song. Again, we've talked a lot about our troops and military families, and I know you have most of them listening from around the world, and sometimes they feel very far from home. But I would like to dedicate this to our troops, military families. We love you. We think of you every day. And this song is called If God Made You.
If God Made You. It's John Ondrasik and Five for Fighting.
Hey kid, your time has come to change. I need you more than I needed anyone in any way tonight. Hey kid, I know it won't be long. The captain's calling, come to see us back where we belong. There's something inside me's breaking. Something inside says there's somewhere better than this. Sunset sailing on April skies, bloodshot fire clouds in your eyes. I can't say what I might believe, but if God made you, He's in love with me. Ooh. Hey kid, your wishes count it all. Can you give me a sign? Tell me anything, I won't tell a soul. You told kid, will you hold me when I sleep? Will you find me when the tide decides I gotta leave now? Something inside me's breaking. Something inside says there's somewhere better than this, my love. Sunset sailing on April skies, bloodshot fire clouds in your eyes. I can't say what I might believe, but if God made you, He's in love with me. Yeah. Ooh. And hey, sunset sailing on April skies, bloodshot fire clouds in your eyes. I can't say what I might believe, but if God made you, he's in love with me. Sunset sailing on April skies, bloodshot fire clouds in your eyes, man. I can't say what I might believe, but if God made you, he's in love with me. He's in love with me.
Border Crossings, If God Made You. That is from John Ondrasik, who's a tremendously talented songwriter and singer as well. And he's, gifted us with his time. Thank you for being so generous with your time today and getting ready for the tour and all the other things that you're working on. Are there other causes that you've got in the back of your mind that you'd like to help to champion, to write about? Is there anything in the news headlines that has motivated you?
We'll see what happens, right? Obviously, as we're talking, we're just kind of coming out of the shock of an assassination attempt on our former president, which again, I think has everybody stunned, scared, and frankly, depressed. And so I think the whole kind of new suggestion of toning down the rhetoric, you talked earlier about how the country was won after 9/11, and that, look, we didn't matter if you're a Democrat, Republican, Independent, didn't matter if you're religious or not, didn't matter your creed, color, we all came together. And I think hopefully there's an opportunity to get some of that now for our country. So as you mentioned, my songs are moral messages, they're not political ones. So maybe we can do something to kind of reinforce that mentality. Because at the end of the day, we are Americans, and America is the shining light of the world. And when it's not, bad things happen. So I think for me, that's probably the top of the list for my mission going forward.
Mm-hmm. And now you mentioned 9/11. I remember meeting President Bush, who came to the Voice of America to talk to us after 9/11 had occurred. He gave a speech. And I remember I went up to him, he shook hands with everybody as they went. And I told him, you made me proud to be an American, because, we were all united, as you say, and anything the president wanted us to do, everybody was on board with it,
The thing I remember about George Bush after 9/11, certainly it was this speech on the rubble, but when he came out and threw that strike at Yankee Stadium, that fastball, and he threw that strike, that spoke for so many of us, and it showed you who he was, right? It showed you he was to have that kind of, being able, I can't throw a strike, give me 100 times, I can't throw a strike, to do that, I think still kind of represents who we are. And I think we need more of that. But yeah, I'm with you 100%. Yeah, no, we have to, as I said, I think we have to remember who we are and stand up for those under siege. And we are freedom. We are liberty. We are America, and we lead. And if we don't, I think it's going to be a dark future.
Right. John Ondrasik is with us, and we want to leave on a positive note. So we're going to ask John, first of all, where can people find you on social media, on the internet? Where can they get a hold of you, your schedule, your tours, your music? Where can they go?
Well, they can always just email Larry London, and he can pass over and text Larry. You can call him at 3 a.m.
Just call me anytime.
Yeah. Fight for Fighting on Facebook, Fight for Fighting Music on Instagram, John Ondrasik on Twitter, and of course, all the ticket links and information and news articles are at fightforfighting.com. And it's always a treat to talk to you, Larry. You are an icon in this business.
Oh,
and,
thank you, John.
It's just it's great to connect every time we talk.
Thank you so much for saying that. I really appreciate it. And I've played your music, for years, and love your music, love your voice. The songwriting is just second to none. It's always a pleasure to have you on the show. Now I'm going to let you close it out and give a message to the troops and to our worldwide audience, and leave them with some inspirational message.
Well, again, I think sometimes it's just about doing the right thing and appreciating those who allow us to do the right thing. And that is, in my mind, not just our troops in America, but our troops around the world fighting for our democracies, and the folks fighting for freedom in places like Iran, the Iranian women standing up to the mullahs, certainly the Ukrainians standing up to Putin. I think of many of my friends in Taiwan who are under threat from China. But at the end of the day, we're one people, right? We all deserve freedom, liberty. Our children deserve that life. It's a tough world sometimes. We have to do things that we may not want to do. But I think if we all kind of stand up with that attitude, we all have a role to play, Larry. You know, people say, well, what can I do? Look, you have a broadcast. I can write a song. I can't drive a tank. I can't fly a plane. We all have a role to play in raising our kids and kind of standing up and not being afraid to say something that maybe somebody won't like. You know, that's, I think, a problem in America. People are afraid. Somebody might call them a name. But I think the consequences are too dire. So, you know, whatever you believe, speak it, love your neighbor, raise your kids, and hopefully tomorrow will be a better day than today, every day.
Thank you, John Ondrasik, our guest. Okay, Not Okay is the name of the new song. And I thank John for joining us. I thank you for tuning in to Border Crossings once again around the world. I'm Larry London, and you're watching VOA TV.